A dozen University of Houston women's soccer players sidelined with serious medical condition called Rhabdo. February 1st, 2019. This story probably got swept under the rug due to the Super Bowl. Rhabdomyolysis, a condition in which skeletal muscle breaks down rapidly. Rhabdo refers to the rod-like shape of the muscle. Myo means muscle. Lysis means breakdown or destruction. The medical literature first reported this in 1881 and again in World War II. Should we know about Rhabdo? How many cases of Rhabdo have there been? A lot in college? Any in high school? How far back does it go? Well, let's take a look. 2006, 8 Division I female lacrosse players. 2011, 7 University of South Carolina swimmers. 2010, 24 Oregon high school football players. Pause this and read this slide. It's pretty scary. 2011, University of Iowa, 13 football players. 2011, Wooten High School in Maryland, 3 freshman high school football players in a preseason workout. Ohio State women's lacrosse, 6 athletes in 2013. Again at Ohio State, but this time the track team, 6 female athletes in 2014. In 2014, 3 swimmers, Division I. In 2015, 6 Butler softball players. In 2015, 9 high school cheerleaders at a cheerleading camp. In 2017, University of Oregon, 3 players. In 2017, 2 Nebraska football players were hospitalized. The coach actually said he had never heard of Rhabdo. He thought it was due to some crazy military type workout or until you run the kids and they drop. And he said, I just didn't expect it to happen with us. And mixed martial arts. Rondell Clark, sickle cell trait, severe weight cutting, 15 to 20 pounds twice in 6 weeks, causing kidney failure and death. What are the causes of Rhabdo? Well, these are pretty interesting. Non-traumatic, non-exertional. So alcohol, drug abuse, cocaine, too much caffeine and amphetamines, ecstasy, benzodiazepines, meaning Valium, Xanax, Ativan, glue sniffing, gasoline and paint sniffing, medication, salicylates, meaning aspirin, antipsychotics, corticosteroids, drugs that are taken that are very powerful anti-inflammatories, sometimes for injuries, statins for high cholesterol, antidepressants, antibiotics, antihistamines, carbon monoxide poisoning, snake bites, bee venom, viral infections, thyroid disease, diabetes, temperature extremes. Do you think having a good history on your players might be a valuable thing? Extreme physical exertion, sickle cell trait. Do you know if any of your athletes have sickle cell trait? Asthma. Do you know if any of your athletes have asthma? And then there are traumatic injury causes. So in the world of sports, Rhabdo can be caused by an excessively hard training session. But what is excessive for one athlete might be fairly easy for another. What have they done during the off season? And maybe having a really hard first day or week might not be prudent. It's typically not an emergency situation, but as we've seen, it can cause hospitalization and even death. So what are the signs and symptoms? Muscle pain and soreness, muscle tenderness, muscle weakness, joint pain, swelling, nausea, dizziness, fatigue, vomiting, confusion, fever, rapid heart rate, dark cola-colored urine. Complications can be very, very serious. What do the workouts look like? Well, you can pause this video and look at some of the workouts, but you can see Many of them were body weight. Some of them were free weight types of exercises. And again, you may look at them and say, well, that's a piece of cake. I could do that. Or you may look at them and say, boy, that looks excessive to me. It all depends. And it also depends on whether or not these athletes had come back from a break. Some of these, at least half of them, they were back from a break and they hadn't been doing anything for a little while. So that is a very, very important part of training. What's the prognosis? The prognosis is typically good if it's treated early and aggressively. What's the emergency care? Well, very important. Recognition. You want to pay attention to your athletes. You want to start CPR if CPR is necessary, if the athlete's unresponsive. You always want an ice bath ready and waiting to go. And when in doubt, call 911 if you see any of those signs or symptoms. What's the return to play? Well, this needs to be supervised by a physician. You can see it's pretty common sense. The physician is going to monitor some blood work, and then the coaches are going to monitor the return to play, making sure the athlete does not have any return of any types of symptoms. What does a prevention plan look like? Well, it starts with a high-quality pre-participation physical examination, year-round conditioning, carefully monitoring strenuous activity in the hot and humid conditions with a proper heat injury protocol. Also, if you're in an area of the country like Colorado where you have high altitudes, this can be an issue. Communicate with your athletes. Modify activity after illness or sleep deprivation. Be aware of midterms and finals. Hire a qualified strength and conditioning coach. Prepare an emergency action plan and practice it. And get educated and stay current. And please don't fall victim to something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Unskilled and unaware of it. How difficulties in recognizing one's own incompetence lead to self-inflated assessments. Don't be that star at the left side of the graph here with what we call Mount Stupid. We've got it covered. In kids' sports, nothing serious ever happens. They don't hit hard enough. Our coaches take a concussion class. That's Mount Stupid. Let's look over to the right. Prepare that emergency action plan. Get your coaches trained in CPR and first aid. Be educated and implement a real-time athlete injury response and management system.